season game. You had said you wanted to get film of that smaller lineup. What did you see?
I thought it was really good, especially offensively. The space that it created, how they moved the ball. We went back, obviously, and looked at it, shot 48 threes, I think it was. But over 80% of those threes were assisted or potential assists. So it wasn't a, isolation, off the dribble, create my own. It was ball movement, creating for one another, making the extra pass. So I thought that was really good. Defensively, I thought we played, well. I thought we defended, getting effort. I think there's some technique things, obviously, being a weekend that we'll continue to improve on, how we guard the ball, contain closeouts and those types of things. But all in all, I thought it was good. We got what we wanted out of it.
48 threes. When you rewatched it, did you see even more out there on the table?
Yeah, we were laughing about it. There was, close to 60 of them that we saw. I think the guys got a little gun shy. But, again, if they're open, we trust those guys to take them. And, we don't have to pump fake. We don't have to drive. We'll take all the open shots we can get.
Chris Fedor, Cleveland.com. JB, going back to that, last year, the most threes you took in any game was 50. And you took 48 the other night. Do you have a number in mind of where you want the uptick to go on threes?
No, to be honest with you, it's not one of the goals that we go after. What we want is just create as many open looks as we possibly can. I think when you start to put those types of numbers, people start to hunt those things. And what we're do is try to get the best shot every possession that we can from players in their spots where they're comfortable and they put the work in to make their shot. So, I can see that number this year exploding at times, to be honest with you, with some of the lineups that we're going to play. But then there's going to be nights where our opponents decide to take threes away, and then we got to attack the paint and beat them there. So we just want to play solid basketball and take the shots that the defense gives us or that our offense creates.
The other night you brought Damian off the bench. He was the first guy off the bench. He played a little bit with Evan and sometimes without Evan. What stands out to you about Damian in the early days of camp?
He's picked up defensively what we're trying to do. Obviously, the size, the vertical spacing, the ability to protect the rim and rebound the basketball, all those things, that are similar to Jarrett's skill set, where, we don't have to make too many adjustments if we put him on the floor because our guys are so comfortable at playing with Jarrett. Offensively, he's a passer than I thought, being able, feeling comfortable enough to put the ball in his hands and let him make passes and, find guys on cuts and things like that. So he's a when you get to see him and allow him to do more, you get to see what he's capable of. And he's got a better skill set than I thought initially.
Joe G. Coach, I'm assuming you like the second coach's challenge rule change. What are your thoughts on the flopping call?
It's going to be interesting because it's going to be left to the referee's discretions. You saw some of the calls where guys are just having fun. Some of those are going to be called flopping calls. So I just think those are things that guys have to be aware of also, and I'm hopeful referees can kind of gauge that and get used to that as well. We don't want to take the entertainment out of it. We don't want to take the joy out of the game for guys. There are some plays that are egregious and dangerous that I think definitely should be corrected in the moment. But referees feel of what's necessary and what's not. But the egregious ones I'm a fan of.
Brendan Gulick, Cas Insider, SI Media Group. Amani, what does he need to accomplish here in the preseason to make you feel like, okay, great, good camp for him, good start, now he's off and rolling?
He needs to play basketball with players. We've been around him long enough and watched enough tape on him. It's not a skill set question of whether or not he belongs in this league. It's just like most rookies, you need opportunity. He is immensely skilled as a shot creator, shot maker, playmaker. There aren't many guys at his age that are capable of doing the things that he can do offensively. He just has to pick up our system. We do things a little bit differently on both sides of the ball. For him, coming from college, obviously, to the NBA, understanding what it's like to not always be the best player on your team. That's not easy for guys, especially guys who have the offensive set that he has. So, you get comfortable playing with the Donovans, the Dariuses, the Evans of the world, and then how you make those in your career, like that's what you do, and time on the floor, and then you go out, and become the best player that you can possibly be. So, as long as he's locked in on what we're trying to do and continue to improve in our system, like he's going to be just fine.
Just a quick question on George. We had a chance to kind of see him interacting with teammates after practice yesterday. It's clear there's chemistry. He fits right in. For Cavs fans that are still becoming familiar with him, what is his greatest asset for you?
There's an edge to him. There's a guy who, enjoys mixing it up. A guy who appreciates competition and knows how to raise the people around him's level of competition. I think that's the thing that stood out most in my mind is he knows how to push buttons, even in practice and in games, in practice, to elevate the competition in the moment. He'll start talking trash to a guy, just to get the competition started. And then in games, he knows how to get under people's skin. You throw that on with his ability to shoot the ball. I think, again, you never really know guys until you get to coach them. But he's extremely creative on the offensive end of the floor as well. He's not just a spot shooter. You allow him to play with the ball in his hands, and he does some really creative things to help his team and help guys get open looks.
Evan Damar, right down you. But JB, you were a part of Cleveland history last night. What was it like for you to be present for the commemoration of the Cleveland Summit?
To be honest with you, it was overwhelming in the moment. We do a lot of different events and are fortunate enough to participate in so many things wide. But for me personally, that was the most significant event that I've been a part of. Not only as a Cavalier coach or member of the Cavaliers, but to personally sit there, with Mr. Wooten and listen to him talk about, that meeting and talk about the history and the circumstances surrounding that meeting. It was, I was taken aback, to be honest, just to be able to think about, in 1967, what they were risking and what they were willing to sacrifice in order to do something that they believed was just right. That was a time where 12 black men could have easily been erased from history and nobody would have said a word, no matter how big or famous those guys happened to be. But they had the courage to come together and try to figure out a way to support what they believe is right and what is right. So to be able to sit there in the presence of that, I was extremely fortunate to just be a part of it. I think it set the tone, and I hope we haven't lost the way of what we can do when we come together. I made the comment last night that right now it seems like everybody's go-to move is to divide and conquer instead of to bring people together. And I think through equality, we continue to bring people together and, bring different groups from different walks of life. That's how we accomplish great things. We don't accomplish great things as separatists, right? We have to be together, and we have to be unified. And I think now it's more glaring than ever. But there's an opportunity for us to continue to stand on their shoulders and more and bring people together in amazing ways.
And Donovan was there as well with you, and he's been very outspoken and being as an advocate and using his platform for the black community and just speaking up on behalf of the black community. How important was it for him just to be there in your eyes as well, just because he is trying to break ground and just open up those conversations as well?
It's like what I respect of Donovan, has absolutely nothing to do with him as a basketball player. I've talked about this from day one with Donovan, as him as a human being, and his understanding of his place in this whole thing, and the platform that he has and how he can do more because of forward to help so many more people. And he's never shied away from that. Like, he's been put in some very uncomfortable positions because of his willingness, to advocate for others. But he's never stopped. He's never used that, his uncomfortable position, to shy away from what was most important to him and what he believed in and what his values are. So, I couldn't be prouder to be his coach, to have a relationship that we do. He's one of the guys, that you aim for your kids to be like when they grow up, to have that courage, to be willing to sacrifice for themselves and to care about others more than themselves. So, we're fortunate to have him here. I'm fortunate to work with him every day. And like I said, I couldn't be more proud to stand next to him.
As to Bob and Chris, Bob Finan, Lyric Chronicle. Does wins and losses mean all that much in the preseason, or are you just trying to get something out of the game?
I'm mostly trying to get something out of the game, but you know what I mean? Like, competition always matters. We do certain things with lineups and rotations and experimenting and things like that, primarily in fourth quarters in the preseason that, may not always lead to wins and losses. But it's opportunities for guys to get on the floor, opportunities for guys to see where they stand next to other NBA players. But even in that, I thought in the Atlanta game, that fourth quarter, guys were really competing on both sides of the game on the floor. Guys who were trying to earn spots, earn minutes. So competition matters. But I don't think you put too much on the wins and losses, but you do hold yourself to a standard of competition.
Last one, Chris.
JB, going back to George for a second, so many of the guys describe him as funny, loud, a goofball. How do you describe his personality?
He's his own sort of gravity, right? Like, he knows how to pull people in. Typically he does it by, his conversation or, his communication. But he's not silly. You know what I mean? Like, he's extremely pointed and professional, but he knows how, in his own way to bring people together. And I think that's what he uses his voice for, because as he's using his voice, he's, making a joke, there's some truth behind his joke, right? Like, he's talking about somebody's pick and roll coverage or somebody's, missed a sign in or whatever it is. And it can be funny. But at the same time, the message is that, you messed up and you need to be better and do that. So, it's not just clownish, you know what I mean? Like, it's extremely pointed in how he uses his voice and how he uses his humor.
So wrap us. Thanks,
All right,
guys.
appreciate y'all. We got, nope. Oh, we do got Jim. You did this. I thought that meant I could get out of here.
No.